Hello. My name is Rhoda. Thank you for joining me on Love, Forgive, Live podcast. I'm very excited about a guest that I found out about. And one thing for sure, he's here to answer some questions for us. Questions that we need answered, questions that we've asked from childhood. This will give us an idea about what is going on with our lives and with humanity and how it's our relationship with beings who are not exactly human, but in a sense, I would say I call them light beings, but others call them other things. You call them, I saw in one of your podcasts that you host, let me pronounce this right, Arcturians? Is that right?
Yes, that's one of many groups, but the Arcturians are one of the groups that I talk to. Yeah.
Okay, good. And what I'm excited about is Mr. Dean Graves has written 4 books. One of which is due to be released today. So I'm very excited about it. The title of that book is called The Enigma of Consciousness, a spiritual exploration of humanity's relationship with creation. I'm excited because I think you have a lot of answers for us. Me, of course, because I feel like a little girl. Questions that I've asked as a child because ideas, or wait a minute, I think I saw something. And everybody said, no, you didn't see anything.
Okay.
Explain this aspect of this Arcturians.
Okay. The creation, everything that we experience, everything, including the tactile things that we're using to push buttons and so forth,
yes,
is consciousness. They are at different levels of consciousness. And consequently, they have their own vibration that corresponds to their level of consciousness.
Yes.
If you imagine that, well, you don't have to imagine, the one infinite creator had a desire, and that desire was very simply to know itself by experiencing itself.
Yes.
And that is the purpose of creation. And in order to facilitate that, if you're all that there is, it's very difficult to experience yourself without creating distortions, because you're everything.
Yes.
And so the one infinite creator projected a concept, which was awareness. He became aware, or it became aware.
Yes.
And that awareness, in conjunction with the infiniteness of the creator, created an environment, a conceptual environment.
Yes.
Within that conceptual environment, the one infinite creator projected an analog projection of itself that was exactly, conceptually, was the creator, except it was distorted with the perception of free will.
Yes.
Now, philosophers for centuries have debated whether we have free will or whether we don't have free will, whether we're predetermined or so forth. That question, those questions are made possible by free will itself. Free will is the perception of separation. So because this analog projection, which is conceptual, of the one infinite creator was distorted with this perception of separation, it perceived itself separate from the creator. And so the one infinite creator interacted with the projection of itself, and that established the first subject-object relationship. One infinite creator being the object, the projection being the subject. So we now have the creator as the object and the creator as the subject. That is a concept within this environment of intelligent infinity.
Yes.
Okay. So being an analog projection, that creator as the subject had the same desires as the one infinite creator, and began to explore itself by using that same methodology that the one infinite creator used in order to create the creator as the subject, but increasing the degree of free will by layers. And if you understand that free will is an intoxicant, it works the same way as whiskey does. The more whiskey that you drink, the more intoxicated that you get, and the less awareness that you have. You do stupid things that you wouldn't do normally.
Yes.
If you had all your faculties together.
Yes.
So this established a series of 8 layers or ranges of consciousness, each layer below being a fractal of the layer above, only because it was more intoxicated with free will.
Yes.
Everything that we as humans think we are in a very low range of this 8-layer of consciousness. We're in the 3rd layer, which is each of these layers is described as a density because the density of the experiencing consciousness is actually increased. The farther we get away from the creator, the more intoxicated with free will we are, and the denser we are. So the lowest layer is very dense. The first layer is the first layer and the second layer are considered to be foundational densities. The first layer consists of inorganic matter. So anything, air, water, any material, any of the elements on the periodic table are all first density. But yet there is still consciousness.
Yes.
Second layer is our plants and animals. So anything that we perceive to be below humanity is in second density. We are third density. And each density has a vast range. If you understand that from our perspective, second density, the vastness of the range can be understood that begins with single-celled plants and animals and concludes with the highest primates. And that's a huge range of difference between those two. Each range has an equivalent vastness to it. So as third density beings, we have a vast range of layers of consciousness. The range is considered to be a density, and dimensions are actually subdivisions of that density. So if you think of a density being a mile, then a dimension would be an inch. And so our task, by having experiences, is to, in this range of consciousness, is to become aware and to begin to surrender this perception of separation that we have from the one infinite creator.
Yes.
And there is a specified curriculum that we are to learn, and we learn this by virtue of having experiences.
Yes. Would that be the reason why? Because I call this plane that we are in Earth School.
It is Earth School. Now, all of creation is an Earth School, but what we're doing is exploring ourselves.
Yes.
We perceive that we're learning about the world around us, but we're learning about ourselves in relation to other people, places, and things.
That's right. That's right. Very, very powerful. And thank you so much for explaining this in such detail, but as well as making it palatable for us to be able to absorb this and understand it.
Well, again, thank you for having me. I delight in sharing this information.
Yes,
So
because one of the things I've learned so far is sometimes explaining this to a person is difficult because, as you're speaking about the density, there are beings in our third space
yes, third density.
where you're explaining it is, I don't know what it is, but some people are just resound to this solid
Hmm.
ideals that doesn't want to understand or try to even listen or hear there's anything else from what they're perceiving.
Well, that's by design. We have, we are the first range of consciousness with the
Mm-hmm.
capacity, with enough awareness capacity in
Mm-hmm.
order to begin our evolutionary journey. So you can
Mm.
say the foundational densities provide us with the planet in
Yes.
order to have experiences,
Mm-hmm.
and the food sources and things of that nature to have an incarnation.
Mm-hmm.
But we simultaneously, and this is true of all consciousness, simultaneously exist in the metaphysical world and the physical world. And if you
Mm.
imagine that we're on a sports team,
Yes.
when we are our metaphysical self, we are a consciousness pattern. We don't have bodies like we do here.
Mm-hmm.
And this consciousness pattern is what is enduring. That is what we will in different forms will be
Mm-hmm.
this consciousness pattern until we reunite with the creator.
Mm.
And that consciousness pattern learns from what we learn in an incarnation. And
Mm-hmm.
if you imagine that that's the equivalent of a sports team, and the sports team, say for example, has a game every Friday night,
Yes.
but you practice all week long.
Mm-hmm.
And so our metaphysical self practices. They watch game films, they receive coaching, they, read book, quit not literally, but
Mm-hmm.
they study what they didn't do well in
Mm-hmm.
their last incarnation,
Mm-hmm.
and they resolve, I'm going to do better this next time. Just put me in, coach. And then you have another game. Then we have another game, and part of the rules is you have to forget
Mm-hmm.
everything, and you have to surrender the restrictions of the game in order to recall all that you had planned and had learned
Yes.
in your week of practice.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
we're in the game right now. We're
Mm-hmm.
playing the game.
Mm-hmm.
And when the game is over, when we die, we will
Yes.
simply reunite with
Mm-hmm.
our consciousness pattern. We will
Yeah.
merge back with our consciousness pattern.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We are an analog projection of our metaphysical self, just like the creator, the subject was an analog projection of the one infinite creator.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And what we learn about the inherent characteristics of the creator, which there are five of them, is the
Mm-hmm.
only thing that is preserved from after we die. In other words, if you have lots of learning, you have lots of diplomas, and you have lots of, you're a doctor or a lawyer or a physicist or whatever, and you have lots of parchments on the wall,
Mm-hmm.
all that goes in the ground with you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not valuable at all to your consciousness pattern. What
Yes.
is important and what is preserved
Mm-hmm.
that propels you further down the consciousness, I mean the evolutionary journey, is
Mm-hmm.
what you have learned about awareness,
Yes.
love,
Yes.
unity,
Mm-hmm.
wisdom, and
Mm-hmm.
stillness. Those are the
Yes.
five inherent characteristics of
I
the
love
creator.
that. Please say it again. I want to write that down.
Okay. So what is preserved after a lifetime, after we
Yes.
die, is
Yes.
what we have learned about awareness,
Mm-hmm.
love, wisdom, unity, and stillness.
Unity and stillness. It's so funny and amazing because the one that I have become aware of, which is, I'm glad I'm learning this, is the one that I perceive as love is the only one that transcends all. That I say love transcends time, space, and realms.
Well, time, space,
Now,
and realms are all distortions of perception.
yes, exactly, because it's all the unity. And so now learning this, I'm like, oh, there's five, not just one. So I just learned something huge today, and it is my aha moment, because that's right. Because when you are still, there's a wisdom and a knowledge that comes with stillness that you can't get if you're constantly moving and not having the time enough to be still. Because being still is almost, to me, it's a way of surrendering.
Well, what it is that we're surrendering, you're exactly right. But what we are surrendering is the direction of our awareness.
Mm-hmm.
I explained to my meditation students that
Mm-hmm.
we perceive that we live in the village. In the village are all
Mm-hmm.
problems.
Mm-hmm.
But when we meditate, or when we are still and we invert that awareness, instead of pointing
Mm-hmm.
it outside of us, but
Mm-hmm.
point it inside, which is where we
Yes.
find the stillness, then
Mm-hmm.
we are in our metaphysical self. We're in the
Yes.
guru's cave.
Yes.
When we go to the guru's cave, there are no problems. And so the more frequently we visit the guru's cave, it's
Mm-hmm.
like going on vacation.
Yes.
Before you go on vacation, you're dealing with village problems.
Mm-hmm.
You take a week or two off,
Mm-hmm.
and it takes you a few days to make that transition
Mm-hmm.
into vacation mode.
Yes.
And you have a great time. You don't think about your problems. It just,
Mm-hmm.
you're completely away from that. And then you come back from vacation,
Mm-hmm.
and the problems of such magnitude before you left are still there, but your perspective about them is different.
Yes.
And the
So
same is
true.
true when we meditate.
Yes. No, meditation is it's a very powerful tool to learning more and more about oneself. And I recognize if you meditate for an extended time, in terms of how often you meditate or how much you've made it a routine, after a while, if you don't meditate, you feel yourself out of sorts.
Yes.
And when that happens to me, it's very disturbing. It makes me, well, I think it makes me believe like something is not right.
You lose your touchstone,
Yes.
and
And
you're floating.
yes,
You're not in touch with
exactly.
yourself.
Exactly. That I feel like I'm floating, and I'm like, oh my goodness. So usually what will happen, I just shut everything off and I just go within, and I would go and just meditate, even if all I have is 15, 20 minutes. I'm like, I'll do it. And it's strange enough, after I do that, there's a calmness that comes over me.
Yes, yes, because you're on vacation.
Yeah. And so
You
every
can
time I
wear
leave,
your Hawaiian dress or Hawaiian shirt and just relax
yes,
and be yourself.
yes, and just be. So would you say meditation is so powerful that it allows you to be able to feel you, even though when you haven't done it, you feel like you're floating, but then when you do it, would you say it's a way of feeling thyself?
Absolutely. You're understand that what I was describing, the process of the development of creation, the
Yes.
structure of creation, the end experiencer is the one infinite creator.
Yes.
We perceive ourselves, and we've been told, most people don't really perceive themselves. We've been told that we're a mind, body, spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're given a body for an incarnation,
Mm-hmm.
which allows us or directs us to have certain types of experiences.
Yes.
And we have reincarnated multiple times. So we've experienced by this stage of our development, every possibility, we've been rich, we've been poor, we've been black, we've been white, we've been every possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because that is a different lens that we use to perceive our experiences.
Yes.
And you have to experience it. Remember the purpose of creation to learn of itself by experiencing itself. So you have to experience it. You can't just read about it or watch it on TV. You have to live that life.
Yes.
And by living that life, you learn of the inherent characteristics through that lens, through that perspective.
Yes. Yes. Because when we can't help it, we can't help but to see from that lens, because the lens is what creates how the person even feels the experience, how the person perceives the experience. Because without using their lens, they cannot see. I had someone ask me, well, if I'm just thinking about it, isn't that kind of like doing it? And I was like, no.
Mm-mm.
Just thinking is like, I see a butterfly and I'm like, I wonder how it'll be like to have a butterfly land on my hand. But I've never had that. But then I say those things. Well, it's just,
not the same.
that's not doing it. Until I did this practice with a child years ago when I was in a session with this child, and the child was feeling very, out of sorts, feeling I can't do anything. The self doubt, nothing is right. And I was like, okay, I don't know what came over me, and I thought, come on, come with me, let's go outside for a walk. And we walked. It was in spring, everything was in bloom, and I don't know what happened, and I saw this butterfly on a plant. So I got there and I said, hi. There were three things I said in my head. I'm sorry, please forgive me, and I love you. I said that three times without uttering the words, but it was in my heart, in my head.
You felt it.
Yes. So since I felt that, and I just extended my hand out, and I said, I would love to show this young girl that she's capable of doing anything. And this butterfly just came, landed on my hand. And I said, thank you. Thank you. It stayed on my hand, and I turned my hand upward before it stayed on the back of my hand. And I turned my hand slowly backward, and this butterfly came right in the middle of my palm. Then I said, thank you again. It moved closer to my wrist, and I said, thank you again. So then I said in my head, would you do the same thing to this young girl? And in my heart, I felt it hurt me. So I told the little girl, say that in your head. Feel it. Thank you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. She said, really? And I said, try it. You see what would happen. She did. And as soon as she said that, this butterfly went onto the flower, then on her hand. And I could see the joy, and I said, don't scream, don't jump, just be calm. Then she said, okay. And I said, isn't that beautiful? She said, yes. And I said, you can do anything. She's like, yeah, I can, a butterfly in my hand. And this butterfly stayed on her palm, in her palm, sorry, for the longest time, longer than it was with me. And then it went on her shoulder, on her right shoulder, and just stayed there for a while. And I said, would you mind if we just stay here so you can visit with the butterfly? As long as the butterfly needs and you need before we go back home. She's like, yeah. And I said, remember, don't scream. Anything you say it with gentleness and calmness. Don't scare the butterfly. She said, oh no, I don't want to scare this butterfly. This is the best. So I took a picture with the butterfly first in her palm and then on her shoulder. And then I guess the visit was over and the butterfly just went back and flew up. Then she said, "Can I scream now?" And I was like, "I guess you can." She's like, "Oh my gosh, I
But it
can't
was,
believe this happened."
but it was a happy dream. It wasn't a scared
Yes,
dream.
yes. She was so happy. And I said, "Can we go home now?" She said, "Yeah, I could do anything. I got a butterfly to land on me." And we went home and I give the picture. I sent the pictures to her mother, and all the kids are like, "Well, I wanted to." She said, "Well, I got to." So it became a thing for her that the one thing nobody did but her. And I could see how her confidence just went up.
Mm-hmm.
She felt so good. And watching that honestly taught me something because I've never done that.
Mm-hmm.
And even because I've heard you can do that,
Mm-hmm.
just
You
speak these
change your
words.
vibration, and your vibration is what invited the visitation from the butterfly.
Yes. And it's the most, I mean, to me, I think it was the most special experience. And then I said, okay, let me try it with the dog. And the same thing. I went in the home. The dog was very upset and
Mm-hmm.
it had severe anxiety. You could see the tail is up.
Mm-hmm.
It's not relaxed at all. And it's barking, So the owner was like, don't touch him. He's going to bite you. And I was like, well, he needs to be playing more. He needs to go out more. He needs to be playing more. He shouldn't be in his kennel. He needs to be doing more. And she's like, well, I'm telling you, he doesn't like people touching him. And I was like, okay. So I said the same thing. And this dog got to the ground and he started making the whimpering sound. So I said in my head, is it okay if I pet you? I pet this dog. And the lady said, what did you do? This dog never does this with strangers. And I was like, I'll tell you in a minute. And I just spent time with this dog.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said in my head, I sure would like to give you a hug and get a hug from you. The dog literally touched my paws. And I said, okay. And I hugged this dog. Then she's like, the owner was like, this is unbelievable. What did you do? And I got chills. I'm still getting chills today when I think about that. And then I told her, and she's like, well, you can keep doing that. I don't know how that could work, but you keep doing that. And I was like, well, it worked. And I thought, wow, this is powerful. The most beautiful thing about that is a year later, I went to visit.
And the dog remembered you?
Remembers.
Yeah.
Didn't bark, it just came to me and wanted me to pet him. That experience has never left me because it reminded me that we are truly connected in every way.
Works the
There's
same
no
for people too.
Yes. Creating this knowledge, or actually becoming aware of this knowledge, what did that do to you personally?
It shifts it. Well, you feel the shift in your vibration. That always feels better than a lower vibration. So the more frequently we allow ourselves to feel that, the more comfortable we feel with it, and the better our ability to hold ourselves in that vibration becomes. It takes practice because
Yes.
we're not taught that. We're not
No,
trained that way,
no,
unfortunately.
no,
And
no.
so these are all parts that our vibration is determined by the beliefs that we have incorporated into our mind.
Yes.
Our mind is nothing more than a bundle of beliefs. That's all a mind is. It's a lens that we use to interpret our experiences.
Yes.
All the stress that we experience is as a result of our beliefs being challenged.
Yes.
when we create these beliefs, we accept these beliefs because we believe that belief is going to get us more of what we like. So when we encounter an experience that doesn't give us more of what we like, we experience what we don't like.
Yes. Yes.
That in and of itself is a complete emotion. There's no emotion other than our decision. This thought that I'm thinking right now feels good and I like it, or it doesn't feel good and I don't like it. That is the only emotion that there is. All these other things that we call emotions, including what most people perceive to be love, is a condition of being.
Yes.
So when we allow ourselves to be in a condition of grief or depression or sorrow or whatever the condition is, then we are attracting experiences because of that lower vibrational frequency. And we're looking through it with the lens of that lower vibrational frequency. And so we feel bad. We don't feel good.
Yes.
And so learning to shift our vibration out of that lower frequency attracts different thoughts.
Yes.
And so we attract the thoughts that bring us greater happiness. Love, one of the inherent characteristics of the Creator, is not an emotion. It's not a commodity. I cannot give you love. You cannot give me love. You can give me permission to surrender these beliefs that create my false perception of self and allow me to be who I already am. I'm already love. You are already love. You are already the inherent characteristics of the Creator.
Yes.
So when we have felt love in our life, it's not that we've gotten love from another person, place, or thing. We've gotten permission to be our authentic self.
Yes. Ooh. Permission to be our authentic selves. It's beautiful and it sounds wonderful. What do you perceive is what stops people from surrendering to them being their authentic selves?
Fear.
Wow.
This mind that we've created, the beliefs that we've incorporated into our perception of self, is who we think we are. If I'm not who I think that I am, then you have to worry, well, who the hell am I? And if I'm going to start healing from these false perceptions, requires us to become vulnerable. And when I tell that to a group, invariably they say, I'm not going to be vulnerable. I'm not talking about being vulnerable to the world. I'm talking about being vulnerable with yourself. And when you allow yourself to become vulnerable with yourself, then you become aware and you are willing to give up these false beliefs. They're all false beliefs.
They are.
That keep us from being our authentic self and surrendering these distortions of perception that keep us in suffering, keep us in stress. Stress is nothing more than our interpretation of an experience that challenges the authenticity of these false beliefs that we've incorporated in our mind.
Yes. Yeah, you've got it right. Because when it challenges the false beliefs or perception of ourselves that we are carrying, it's exhausting. And when the challenge comes, I look at it as an opportunity to release that and then start seeing how being your authentic self can feel good. But the fear is so overwhelming that sometimes I think some people become resigned to that and start believing that that is all there is. There is
Well,
nothing.
we set this mind, these
Mm-hmm.
false beliefs, according to our experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
use the example in my classes that imagine that you're a child born into an abusive family.
Mm-hmm.
Your worst experience is being abused 5 times a day. Your
Mm.
best experience
Did I freeze?
that belief going to stay in your mind
Mm-hmm.
subconsciously until you
Mm-hmm.
let it go. All you have to do is let it go, but that's very
Yes.
difficult. So subconsciously, we will seek to be abused at least one time a day
Mm-hmm.
throughout the rest of our lifetime
Mm-hmm.
until we let it go. We become aware of it, and it's
Yes.
just like if you go out one morning and you're going to work and you see your car has a flat tire, you've
Mm-hmm.
discovered the problem. Your awareness
Yeah.
has discovered the problem. Well, you're not going to walk away from the car and never use it again.
Yeah.
You're going to fix the tire. You're going to
Mm-hmm.
call somebody, or you're going to do it yourself to fix the
Mm-hmm.
tire and then drive on your way. The
Yes.
same is true when we discover these beliefs that we've incorporated into our mind. We're not going to let it there. Say, oh, yeah, that's the one that's causing me trouble. No, I'll just keep it. You let it go.
Yes.
You get rid of it.
Mm-hmm. Would that be why some people would hold on to anger, trauma, and really terrible experiences and decide they're not going to forgive, they're not going to let it go because it's what they experience? I have people telling me sometimes, well, when I forgive, then they get off the hook.
Well, see, we have a propensity to think that there is retribution, that
Yes.
there's punishment, and there is no punishment. If we have a lifetime where we don't follow that game plan that we set and we become what we incarnate people would say would be a terrible person, no
Mm-hmm.
matter how intensely terrible we are, when
Mm-hmm.
we return to our metaphysical self, we are not punished. We
Mm-hmm.
are guided and said, we are so sorry. And we feel regret.
Yes.
We feel regret that we forgot what we were meant to do.
Mm-hmm.
And we watch more game films. We have more coaching, we have more guidance to
Yes.
help us become aware of where we deviated from
Mm-hmm.
the path,
Mm-hmm.
where we didn't do what we went to do. But there's no retribution at all. We're all the one infinite creator
Mm-hmm.
experiencing ourselves at this range of consciousness. And if
Yes.
you were walking through a store and your left hand decided it was going to shoplift and you get caught, well, your right hand's not going to cut your left hand off
No.
because the left hand went off on its own and did that shoplifting and got your whole body in trouble.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're forgiving, said, well, that was stupid. Don't do that. You give it a little slap and go on your way.
Yes. I so agree. Now, what do we tell someone, I know, an individual who is struggling with the pain, with the anger, with the abandonment, with the trauma, and with the neglect they felt
Mm-hmm.
when they're believing or convince themselves that this is what their life is? How do you speak to someone
Well,
about this?
they know they're in pain. They
Yes.
feel the pain.
Mm-hmm.
Anger is a defensive mechanism that we create to make the experience go away
Mm-hmm.
so that I don't have to become aware of what I need to change within me.
Yes.
And I think it's so ironic. And I teach a lot of men's groups, and
Mm-hmm.
men are trained. We're trained to be manly, to fight. And the mentality is that you've insulted my perception of self.
Yes.
And so I'm going to beat the hell out of you until you see how wonderful my false perception of self is.
If you put it that way, yeah, it sounds ridiculous.
It does. It is ridiculous. I mean, this person or the people that have triggered this anger, triggered this negative feeling inside of you, have just given you a gift. They've given you the gift of self-awareness that is showing you what it is inside of you that you need to heal, so that you no longer have to experience this negativity.
Yes.
And instead of saying thank you for this gift of making me aware of what I need to heal inside of me, I'm going to try and make you see how wonderful my distorted self is. And it makes no sense when you look at it.
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. And it's sad, but
it's the way we are right now.
Yeah, because of the lack of awareness, and it just keeps repeating itself and repeating itself. And I've known people who transitioned into the formless without even getting this across.
Right.
And I'm
that's why we have multiple incarnations.
Yes.
To learn this incrementally. Now, you had asked me about traumas. Traumas are different from a difficult experience, something we just really didn't like, but it's not traumatic to us. And if you understand that we, by design, can only process one thought at a time.
Yes.
We can think, that's why we experience time. That's what time is. Our perception of time is linear because we can only process one thought at a time.
Yes.
And we are obligated with every thought to make a decision about that thought, that it either feels good or it doesn't feel good. Okay? Now, when we are in a very intense situation, we perceive an experience to last some period of time, 30 minutes or an hour or some period of time, but there are dozens of thoughts within that perceived experience. And we are obligated to make that decision about every single thought in that experience. When a particular thought, because of the way that we are at that moment, is so challenging to our perception of self that we can't make that decision, then our awareness literally leaves our body. And you've seen people have not personally experienced people that are in shock. Their tornado has blown their house away, and the next morning they're just kind of wandering around. They have no focus. They can't interact with the world around them until they get over that shock. It's because their awareness is outside of their body. When their awareness comes back into their body, then they can function more rationally and more normally. That happens on a thought by thought basis. And so in this perceived experience, say is 30 minutes, and there's one thought that was so challenging to your identity that you couldn't make that decision, then that's a gap in your life experiences. And in order to heal that trauma, you have to have the person, they recall it, have them focus their attention on that moment in that experience. And when they use their awareness and bring that moment, finish processing that moment, the traumatic nature of that experience goes away. And I do this is primarily what I do in my mental health practice. I mostly just because of the way that it's evolved, I've been doing a lot of work with veterans that have PTSD. And PTSD is nothing more than a trauma. It's a situation like that, and they may have multiple ones, so you have to treat each one individually.
Yes.
But when they go to that moment and we process it and they are able to make that decision, their PTSD heals.
Oh, wow.
In a matter of 10 to 15 minutes. And they're through with it. It's over. And they can, for people, I do a lot of work with therapists that send me their patients and I work with their traumas and then send them back to them. And invariably the therapists tell me, you know, they can't talk about it. They won't talk about it to me. I can't help them because it's just too strong. They can't talk about it.
Yes.
After I process them, they say, I can't shut them up. All they want to talk about is this experience.
Yes.
So that's all a trauma is. And, you know, you think about it, and there'd be two men in a foxhole in a firefight, and it's the same exact environment. It's the same shells falling. It's the same stress.
Yes.
One of them has a trauma from that, and the other one doesn't. It's because of the condition of that one and the condition that he was in at the time that experience occurred. But you can heal it just that quickly.
That's amazing. Amazing. I would say this is a very informative conversation, because it's allowing us to see that PTSD is not something that can do people in.
It's
can
perfectly healable.
Yeah, it can be healed. And it's sad when you hear the intensity of a lot of vets speaking about their experiences and the PTSD and how gripping it is on them. Hearing this brings hope that they don't have to sit with this any longer. They can have access to what they can do themselves, not, saying, oh, give me something to just numb this and all that, but what they can do themselves by going within and then recognizing where this shock or this separation started for them.
Really healing it instead of just masking it.
Yes. Yes. Because the healing is a freedom. It's a freedom.
But that's true of all of our difficult experiences in life that are there because of these beliefs that we've incorporated in our mind.
Yes. And it's so difficult and to hear people go through that, and it's sad that they perceive, there's no way. And so hearing this makes me feel very hopeful for them, that they can access something that will allow them to rethink this and then start working on how to make this a changeable thing for them. And they're
permanent change too.
A permanent change and not stuck.
Yeah. I worked with a man a few weeks ago that was a Vietnam veteran. He was an older gentleman, and he had been carrying his PTSD, his trauma, since Vietnam, which is a long time ago now. And after I worked with him and got rid of the one outstanding trauma, he just gave me this startled look and said, "Where'd it go?" It's gone.
Oh, beautiful.
I've lived with this for 50 years. I said, well, yeah, but you don't have to live with it anymore.
Yes, yes. And that's the truth, because now he has access to what he can do for himself. And it's not something on the outside, it's what he can do for himself within.
Yes.
It's a very powerful thing to be able to do that. Now, your book title, The Enigma of Consciousness, a spiritual exploration of humanity's relationship with creation. A long title, but it's self-explanatory.
Well, I hope that it would be.
Yes, yes. So I read it and I was like, okay, puts it all together in a good sentence, because what I want to know is the enigma of consciousness, the layers that made it an enigma.
Mm-hmm.
How did you find that out?
Well, I lived what would deem to be a normal life and experienced normal frustrations.
Mm-hmm.
And I had an awakening at about my 50th year.
Mm-hmm.
An awakening is a misunderstood event. It is
Mm-hmm.
nothing more
Mm-hmm.
than an individual's realization that all the stuff that
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing
Mm-hmm.
is not making me happier. It's
Yes.
not bringing me the happiness that I want to feel. That's an
Yes.
awakening. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's incumbent upon each individual, once they have that moment of
Mm-hmm.
awareness,
Mm-hmm.
to start seeing what else there is out there.
Yes.
And I chose meditation, and I highly recommend meditation. And I tell my students that almost everybody comes to meditation running away from the stick. And the stick hurts, and you're
Yes.
wanting relief from that which is hurting.
Yes.
And then you meditate, and it may be 2 months, it may be 2 years, it may be
Mm-hmm.
10 years,
Mm-hmm.
depending on the individual and their willingness to
Mm-hmm.
surrender and
Mm-hmm.
become aware. But
Mm-hmm.
then you get a bite of the apple
Yeah.
or the fudge brownie or whatever it is that you
Mm-hmm.
personally prefer. There's no magic to apple, it's
Mm-hmm.
just a
Mm-hmm.
metaphor. And when you get that bite of the apple tastes really good. And you want more of the bite of the apple. So your motivation transforms from running away from the stick to chasing the apple and getting more of what you
Yes.
like.
Yes.
And when you do that, then your healing accelerates significantly.
Mm-hmm.
Part of my process and this is immutable, it's the same for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
You open yourselves when you go inside and you go deep, then you have access to all of the universe.
Yes.
And I began talking to my higher self.
Mm-hmm.
And there was about a 10-year period where I was virtually in isolation and I was in school.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to ask questions, because when you ask the question, then that tells your higher self that you're ready for the answers.
Yes.
Your higher self is not going to sit you down and say, okay, this is what you need to learn.
No.
It doesn't work that way.
Yes.
You have to
Leave
prepare
it.
yourself to ask the questions.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked a lot of questions.
Yes.
And the process continues today. I continue
Mm-hmm.
to ask questions. I'm
Mm-hmm.
still a student. I'm still an acolyte.
Yes.
And I'm learning more every day. Now, the
Mm-hmm.
Arcturians, you had asked me about that earlier in our
Yes.
conversation.
Yes.
Our universe
Mm-hmm.
is comprised of 9 archetypes of the creator.
Mm-hmm.
The 5 inherent characteristics that we've talked about, and
Yes.
4 distortions, one of which is free will.
Mm-hmm.
Our universe has expanded in groups of 9 stars.
Mm-hmm.
Every star is home to an archetype of the creator. Our
Okay.
sun is home to an aspect of wisdom.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so every 9-star system
Mm-hmm.
essentially conducts experiments by
Mm-hmm.
creating all the lower densities, all the lower beings in the density,
Mm-hmm.
and guides it to have unique experiences so that the creator might know itself more completely.
Yes.
Every other universe has a different combination. There's a total of 32 archetypes of the creator, 5 inherent characteristics,
Mm-hmm.
free will is an archetype, and then 26 distortions.
Mm-hmm.
And each universe is a mixing and matching of different distortions with inherent characteristics and free will
Mm-hmm.
in order to diversify the creator's experience. Now, the
Yeah.
Arcturians are simply another 9-star system
Mm-hmm.
that has been in the system. They've been in the system longer than we have.
Mm-hmm.
They have lots more experience, and so they are involved with us as a resource
Mm-hmm.
for information, but also as teachers as we are ready to ask the questions.
Yes.
The Pleiadians are another 9-star system, and there's an infinity of different resources available to us. Amadeus Mozart was a visitor from another universe that came to live a lifetime on Earth in order to contribute, but also to experience the difficulties that we experience as humans. And so we are interactive all the time with the world around us.
Yes.
And not more than the universe around, the universe's creation around us.
Yes. Now, where would it this just came in to my mind while you were speaking. Where does the angelic beings fit into these archetypes?
Well, angelic beings are a creation of religion. If and this has happened in the past, the 6th, 7th, and 8th density are creator being densities. The 6th density is they're the worker bees. They're the ones that create what we experience. They create the planets and the people in the lower densities. If a 6th density being were to interact with us, we would perceive them to be the most angelic archangel that there ever was, because they're so much more of the creator than we are. And so there's no need for angels. They're just higher beings that care about us and have interacted with us in the past. And our application is let me explain something that you may have noticed that I refer to the originator of creation as the one infinite creator.
Yes.
And that's purposeful. The concept of God is a religious concept. Every major religion that I'm familiar with is founded on the principle that there is a God and there is you. In other words, they're separate. Okay? If we did not have that perception, we would not need the religion. And so the reality is that we are the one infinite creator, intoxicated with free will, so that we may experience creation at this range of consciousness. And as we experience and explore ourselves, we are fulfilling the one infinite creator's desire to know itself by experiencing itself.
Yes.
We perceive that we have a separate spirit, which is not the case. There is one spirit, which is that of the one infinite creator. Because of our limited capabilities of perception, we perceive only a teeny tiny portion of the entirety of the creator that we already are.
Wow.
As we evolve, we will perceive more of that. And so that is when we become these higher beings that we're making reference to. Our higher self defines itself as us in the future.
Yes.
And still we perceive that as separate, but it's not.
Wow. I love that. Because there's the unity again, the oneness.
Absolutely. That's what we're evolving back towards. That's where we began, though.
Yes, yes. Our original state, the oneness. And honestly, I think that's what most of us, when we get hit with things, we're like, oh, we want to be home. We want to be in the oneness because that is home. And I always say, your most valuable and original state is the love. That's why we strive so much. And I always say, if that wasn't real, why would we be so eager to experience that over and over and over.
Well, from our perception, love is the best that there can be.
Yes.
But each of these densities, the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh density, okay, the curriculum that we are to learn in third density is awareness. The curriculum that we will learn in fourth density is love. The curriculum in fifth density is wisdom. The curriculum in sixth density is unity, and the curriculum in seventh density, before we merge back with the unity of the Creator, is stillness. And these are hierarchical only because you have to build the floor before you build the walls, and you have to build the walls before you build the roof. And so awareness is essential for us to have that foundation, to be able to learn of love in the next density, in the next range of consciousness.
Yeah, because it's needed.
Huh?
Because it's needed.
It's necessary. I mean, it's hierarchical only because of capacity that appears as we move forward in the process. So when we feel love, and we can feel love, but that is nothing like we will feel in fourth density.
Yes.
Our task is to become awareness in order to, if you think of it, we're in third grade, we're learning the lessons of third grade with the ambition of going to fourth grade, but you got to learn the lessons in third grade so you can do the work of fourth grade.
Yes.
And the same is true. We have to learn the lessons of awareness and become awareness in order to do the work of love in fourth density.
Yes.
We do get a peek behind the curtain. Those times that we have, as we were talking about before, we've given ourselves permission to surrender our false perception of self.
Yes.
And that's getting a peek behind the curtain. We get to see behind the curtain. Oh, wow, that love, that feels really good. I want more of that.
Yes. And that is so true. I love this. I could sit with you and talk all day, and because it's powerful to learn about all this, because they've been in the back of the mind. To me, I call it in the back of my head, and it's like there's something, and then you're constantly walking around and thinking, oh, something else is going on. What is that? Now I realize I'm not losing my mind because there's.
Well, as we were talking, I hope you lose your mind. I hope I lose my mind too.
Yes,
that
but
mind is what's just causing us stress.
Yes, in that aspect, absolutely, because it's a growth to learn this and become aware of, oh, so this is what is happening. This is what is going on. I love it. I want more, and I do want more, and keep evolving and learning, because that is the power. When you shut down and you don't want to learn, you're done. But if you're open to and avail yourself for the learning, it's the most beautiful things, because you keep evolving and the growth is endless, because there's so much to continue learning. It doesn't stop.
Right. Well, let me just comment on that real quickly, if I may. What you're describing, when people stop learning, then they become frustrated with trying to defend and protect this false perception of self.
Yes.
And they enter a stage of stasis where they want things to stay the same. And so they exert their efforts, instead of changing themselves, they try to change the world around them.
Yes.
What we really seek is stability. The Creator, the one infinite Creator, is absolute stability. The difference between stability and stasis is change. Stability anticipates change.
Yes.
Stasis does not anticipate change. It resists change.
Yes.
And so someone who has reached that stage in life, and it can happen in your 20s or in your 80s, it doesn't, whenever.
Yes.
When they reach and enter that phase of stasis, they've quit learning and they've decided, I'm going to try to change you, the world around me,
Yes.
instead of changing the one thing that I can change, which is
Hmm.
me.
Hmm. Wow, this is beautiful. First of all, how would our audience get in touch with you, and where do we get your book?
Well, the book is easy. You can order it on Amazon, or you can get it from your favorite bookstore. It's
Hmm.
available in both an ebook, if you prefer reading on an ebook, or the printed book is available in
Hmm.
immediately in your bookstore as of today.
Hmm. Hmm.
And they can get in touch with me. I have a website, the initial D,
Hmm.
Dean, Dean, Graves, Graves, all one word, .info.
.info. Okay, perfect. And then this last question I ask everybody. So, knowing what you know now, and if you had to impart a wisdom and knowledge, understanding, or an advice to your younger self, what would that be?
Um, Learn to meditate and learn to invert that awareness from outside of you inside and give
Mhm.
yourself permission to be your authentic self.
Oof, I love that. That is something that I wish I had learned when I was young.
Oh, me too.
I, so yes, it would save a lot of heartache.
I'll tell you a little funny. When, years ago, when I first realized that I was talking to my higher self, and I
Mhm.
had this light bulb go off in my head, and I thought, oh, I sure am sorry about those teenage years.
Yes, yes, yes. It's what you said is so true because there was a time, um, I think when I was starting becoming aware, and I was like, oh, I was so mean to those people. Oh my gosh! But I was a teen. I was not that was not nice.
Yeah.
And I sat down and I wrote a list of those people, about two or three people, and I said I'm going to find them. And when I found them, I wrote to them and I said, listen, I am so sorry.
It's making amends.
Yes,
That's
I'm so
actually
sorry.
healing you.
Yes, I'm so
Yeah.
sorry for the way I treated you. Um, I was wrong, and please forgive me. Um, now I realize what I did was not right, and I'm not making an excuse for it. I'm just sorry. I hurt you, and that was not right. I shouldn't have done that.
It's very powerful.
It freed me so much, and I was like, wow. I walked around after that feeling like something special. Like, oh yeah, it
Yeah.
was weird. It was strange because I was like, wait, how could something that simple? But it was important for me to
Hmm.
do that. And I remember other friends was asking me, why did you do that? And I was like, I just felt I needed to.
And what
So
you
I'm
really
like,
did was forgive yourself.
yeah. And over time, I started learning that too, and then forgive myself, and then let go. Then it became even more free, and there was a flow for me to become more still and meditate and listen to what is being shown to me and taught to me. And
Hmm.
then I started feeling more like, wow, I wish everybody did this. And of course, in the beginning, my Me Too, it was around probably 45, 50. Between that age, there was some sort of a transformation that went on with me. And I would say
Hmm.
that people would say, oh, here she comes again. She's so strange. And I thought, no, I think I, this is so, but I know also what it is. When you dip your toes into that, the transformation is so powerful, you want everybody to experience it. But
Yeah.
if people around you are not ready to be vulnerable to self
Hmm.
in order to explore that, you cannot push it. Of course, in the beginning, you believe I could tell you. No. Then I started understanding that, oh, everybody has their own journey, their
Mm-hmm.
own time, they will come to this space. You just found out now? Great. You're kind of late to the party if you look at the grand scheme of things. But it is what it is. Everybody comes where they're ready and
That's
when
right.
they're ready.
That's
So
right.
that's what I had to do for myself, to not judge and criticize and then become okay with where everybody was. And it's just okay, and not go like, but you could. No, don't do that. So I really love your explanations, your ideas, and opening our minds to see how we can allow ourselves to evolve even to a higher consciousness than what we are sitting with. And I can't wait for you to hear more about stories about your book, and also tell us the time the your podcast that people can find so they can also listen in.
Well, I have two podcasts. One
Mhm.
is Simple Enlightenment, and it's on all the. These are both on all the major podcast hosts.
Okay.
And the one that most people are interested in is Chatting with the Arcturians. And we literally have a conversation and we chat. They're very personable. They speak as one voice,
Mm-hmm.
and they provide a lot of the information that we've talked about. Just
Mm-hmm.
reiteration. It just it helps to have another perspective, and they do have a little bit different perspective, but it's not significantly different.
Mm-hmm.
And it's based upon their experiences. And they have provided us with some recent information
Mm-hmm.
um, that there are going to be visitations from uh, multiple nine-star systems, multiple groups
Mm-hmm.
that won't be deniable. There'll be landing on government buildings and public parks and things of
Mm-hmm.
that nature,
Mm-hmm.
with the intent of um, getting us more involved in the universe
Mm-hmm.
instead of being perceiving ourselves as isolated in the planet
Yes.
Earth.
Yes.
They
Absolute
say that it's
observers.
time in order to do that.
Uh-huh. Oh well, I can't wait. Well, definitely I want to hear this and see more information, because there's a lot of stuff coming up,
Hmm.
and a lot of stuff being just exposed, where people are like, what. So I think, yeah, we are at this time frame. And um I remember Dr. Sorry, Dolores Cannon. She used to say, "There's going to be a new Earth coming,"
Hmm.
and she
Yes, there
said,
is.
"I'm not going to be here to experience it." And right
But
on.
you wanted to be here now to experience this part of it.
Yes, yes, yes. So it's something that is powerful. We are all. I hope everybody's ready for it. But either way, I know I've heard and I heard enough about this to know that there's a shift to allow this to happen
Hmm.
in our time. And
Well, the work that you're doing is helping that shift.
I hope.
You are. Yes, you are.
Thank
Most
you.
definitely. It's very purposeful.
Thank you. Thank you. I try, and like everything, because I when I hear the inkling, I'm one of those people. I just react to it and I avail myself to it. And every day I meditate and pray, and I say, okay, let your will be done, and what needs to be, and whom may I facilitate, and how may I serve. And it's strange that a simple prayer and a simple word like that
Hmm.
is doing so much. And I'm just like, wow. And of course I'm telling all my siblings, and I was like, this is so great, I want you. And they're like, yeah, you're too strange. And I was like, okay, just when you're ready. And they're like, yeah, you do you, we will do ours, and when we are
Hmm.
ready. And I was like, okay.
It's
But
an individual journey.
yes, it's a I'm very grateful to be able to partake in this shift. Mind you, I when I got into all this and started doing what I'm doing, I was just following my a deep purpose and calling within me, and
Mm-hmm.
where,
That's
and
all we can do.
if you ask me how, I can't explain it. I just,
Well, you don't need to.
yeah,
Yeah, it just feels right. It resonates within you, and you feel better for having done it.
yes, that's the thing. Is, oh, I'm so glad you said that, because every time I do it, I feel internally that I served today. I did exactly what I'm supposed to do. And every time, like, I would, because I usually get my visitations through sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I was younger as a child, when they used to visit, I'll be like, I'm not ready to have this interaction. I want
Right.
only contact me in sleep. I don't want any stuff. And they were like, okay. So I have journals, like 8 journals that have been filled with dreams, because I write every day. When I dream, I write, and I dream, I write.
Dreams are experiences just like we're having now. It has all the same ingredients of waking experiences. And
Yes.
our higher self communicates with us a lot in
Mm-hmm.
our dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And so learning to write those dreams down is very valuable.
Yes, yes. Oh no. My one of my nightstand, because I have two. One of them, it's just got stacks of journals that I've been writing in. Once I started recognizing that writing it is important,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very important. But I thank you so much for coming. I appreciate you. Thank you for joining me, and our guest has given us some valuable tips. I hope those of you who are listening will find this as a great teachable moment to learn more about yourself and how you relate to this universe of ours, and how we are interconnected. We are not separate from each other. And we need to become aware of this, and to continue to love one another, because we are working at the same place, but we don't even know this.
Yeah. All we're doing is walking each other home.
Yes, yes. Now, one thing I would say, those of you who wants to contact me, you may contact me at love, LUV, the number 4, give, GIVE, live, LIVE, at gmail.com. Then, if you need any information, I'll give it to you. And I'll also give you um, Dean's information, and you can go to his website. You can also get the book on Amazon. I need this book because I think it's going to give me a lot of insights into what I'm learning. And hopefully others can learn too. Thank you for joining us.